Honesty. My name is Michael Tamer, and today we are going to talk about turnover and the fact that it does not need to be inevitable. It's something that we can make a case for and something that we can make some changes. And of course, the biggest opportunity, or one of the biggest opportunities for that, is something new, which is AI. And of course, as always, I think the single best and has always been the number one component that can change turnover is your culture. And everybody has a culture. It already exists, and your culture is something that can either be a strength or it can be a really serious weakness. And obviously everybody wants it to be a strength, and usually we find in most organizations that there's some things that they do really good, that their culture is really healthy or really spectacular and really is almost a competitive advantage for them. And there's some other areas, sometimes things that have been around for years and years and years, that keep us from being as successful as we might want to be. So what we're going to do here in the next 45 to 50 minutes is I'm going to try to explain to you and give you some perspective on some ideas and some thoughts around culture and AI and how it impacts turnover. We're going to show you some technology as well. And there is a chat button there that you can respond or ask a question. I'd be happy to answer those along the way. I don't actually see them. So if there is one, someone will interrupt and ask me the question, or if not, we'll answer them at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I don't have to tell you the troubles that exist with turnover. I don't know where you fall on the spectrum with turnover, but it's been a mess. It's always been a mess. It continues to be a mess, and the number one challenge that we have in contact centers. And so the question isn't, are you going to have turnover? And let me stop that, because I have actually talked to some organizations that don't have any turnover. They're unicorns, but there are some that don't have it at all. But the numbers can be staggering. If you have a really high turnover rate, then your job is crazy challenging. If you just have a normal turnover rate, it's still very, very challenging. That transfer of people, the change in people, really does affect everything that we do. I think the one that's most interesting of the numbers that show up here is the middle one, which is the average cost of replacing an agent. Maybe your number is not 11,000, maybe it's 5,000, or maybe it's 20,000. But the impact of that change, that new hire that replaces someone that already knows what they're doing, is just catastrophic to an organization. And it's something that we need to be really good at, something we need to be able to do, because we want to hold on to our best people, but we also need to have a core competence where we can bring people on, we can get them up to speed, because it is inevitable that we're going to have turnover in a contact center for no other reason than most people don't dream when they're young in grammar school or high school about growing up and working in a contact center. We have actors, we have actresses, we have marketing people, we have engineering people, we have, who knows, maybe someday someone's going to be a U.S. senator. And then, of course, we have people that want to make a career out of it. But for the most part, these people are with us for a season. And whatever the length of that season is, we're trying to make that, obviously, to stick around as long as possible. And certainly we want it to stick around for the people that matter and the ones that are doing really well. I wanted to give you an example of where I think if you're going to have turnover, it's inevitable. You want it to look a little bit like this. This is one of our clients, and you'll see that their turnover was focused on their bottom people, which of course is pretty normal. That the people that are the poorest performers are the ones that usually turn over. They're usually the ones that are most happiest, or they've got issues with adherence or attendance, or whatever the issue is. But this is what we kind of want it to look like. This is our best opportunity if we're going to have high turnover. We hold on to the people that really count, and we engage them and connect with them and help them be more successful. And if we're going to lose people, we're going to lose people that are our poor performers. They're the ones that are going to leave for us. So let's get some groundwork. Let's find a baseline from which we can talk. And that is, I want you to look at your contact center as if it's a garden. And in your garden, you have roses, daisies, and weeds. Roses is the most beautiful flower that exists. They're the ones that everybody gets for their anniversaries. But roses are pretty difficult to grow. They require a lot of fertilizer. They can be particularly prickly, and of course they just require a lot of effort. And that's sometimes the way our our top people are, the people that are the very, very best. And the issue is that in most organizations, we have a tendency to reward roses. You know, you're the best this, you're the best that. Hey, you're at the top of the leaderboard. But if you want to keep a rose around, if you want them to stick around, you need to challenge them. Roses need to be challenged. Roses are the one that set your standards. They're the ones that help you reduce AHT. They're the ones that help you find an answer to a particular problem or mentor other people. If you've got a problem in your organization, you give it to a rose. So it's a question for yourself. Is your leader giving you challenges and giving you opportunities to do things? If they are, then perhaps you're a rose. If they're not, then maybe you're not quite a rose yet. So we need to be challenging our roses. The second group is our daisies, and daisies represent the majority of our organization. You usually end up with 20% roses, 20% weeds. Then we've got these daisies that fall in the middle that represent about 60%. Daisies also a beautiful flower, very easy to grow, and doesn't require a lot of effort. Well, the issue with daisies is we have a tendency to ignore our daisies in the contact center because we're focused on the roses, we're focused on the weeds, and we've left this group in the middle and we just don't pay any attention to them. And we know this because we don't have any average awards that we're giving out. We don't get the executive team together, once a quarter, and we get in kind of a flying duck V, and we walk through the center, and dun 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 dun. And we stop and we look and we say, Sally, I want you to know we've looked at all the numbers. We've looked at quality, we've looked at productivity, we've looked at adherence. And Sally, you're the most average performer that we have. Congratulations, you're the most average rep. You get average rep of the month this month. Congratulations. Matter of fact, Sally, when we think of you, we're going to think of average Sally. That's not happens. It never happens. We don't hand out those rewards, but we need to find ways to reward this group, to recognize them, acknowledge them, because they're the best shot we've got for future roses, and they represent the majority of our organization. And then finally, we have weeds, and weeds are obviously the poorest performers in our organization. We have a tendency to punish this group because we're trying to get them out the door. We're trying to get them to a PIP as fast as we can, or maybe we just have a lot of structure in place on how we grind through these people. But ultimately, we want to eliminate the weeds or eliminate poor performance of weeds. And what I mean by that is that how do you know when you're running a great organization? How do you know when you've hit it, when you've made it happen? Well, you know that when your weeds are better than everybody else's roses. You see, on the championship baseball team, the Los Angeles Dodgers just won the World Series. They beat my New York Yankees, sadly, but they beat them. Well, on the Dodgers, I think they have 26 players on their team. Of the 26 players, some of those are roses, some of those are daisies, and some of those are weeds, which means that there are some people on the Dodgers that never play. They're the worst performer on that particular team, this championship team, but they make more money than we could ever possibly dream. And they're some of the greatest baseball players on planet Earth, but in that particular environment, they're a weed. Well, what that means is if we're going to have these people that could be the greatest people on earth, we're still going to need to recognize them. We still need to engage them. We still need to reward them. So we have to make sure that we have the capacity to do that across the board as we bring our weeds along. Our roses drive the performance, our daisies bring up, and our weeds. What we want to do is have spectacularly performing weeds, because that means that we're getting accomplished what we need to get accomplished. All right, so our lens, our filter that we look at people in your organization is that we want to build leaders who understand that people in the contact center need joy more than they need KPIs, a sense of purpose more than sophisticated monitoring, and a champion more than a supervisor. Well, what does that come down to? Well, that comes down to the fact that your employees need 3 things from you. They just need 3. If you can get these 3 things right, you can deliver a great organization that they can be a part of. They need to have a clear job description. They need to know what it is they're supposed to be doing, and that's their purpose, right? That's their purpose. They need to have the skills and tools to be successful, and that's where they get their joy from. Because let's be clear, we get our joy from being successful in an organization. I know you can like everybody, feel engaged, but if you're really lousy at your job, you're not going to find a lot of joy. And then finally, we need a leader that has their best interest in mind. And that's the champion. And you can see from this slide the kind of thoughts that we need that help people understand to find purpose, joy, and to find a champion. I'm looking to create skills and tools that'll help somebody be successful so that they can leave a legacy for the organization, that they actually create a wave that things actually matter and they're making things work for them. Where they recognize the fact that they've got personal growth, whether they're going to be with you for a short season or a long season, whether they're going to be a career person in your contact center or whether they're going to be someone that leaves you after a short amount of time. We want to help them create an environment where they're building their future and they're continuing to get better in what it is that they do. So our goal is to have an organization is to have all winners. So whether you're a rose, whether you're a daisy or a weed, we want to be in a position to be able to have all winners. And when we do that, that means that we're looking for and trying to create environments where we can gather data that will make them successful. So a winning frontline culture looks like this. It starts with ownership and self-motivation, which means whether you've got your frontline supervisors, whether they've got 12 people reporting to them or 25 people reporting to them, we've got to create an environment where your frontline, your supervisors, you own your job, where you own it and you're self-motivating. We've got to have ownership. And this is especially true for people that are remote. I just did a podcast a couple of weeks ago on the remote impact. And this is so important because people are working at home by themselves. We've got to create an environment where they own it, where the culture is that I own my numbers, I own my education, I own my motivation. It doesn't mean we don't add to it. It doesn't mean we don't try to create circumstances in which we can do that. But we've got to create an environment where we've got ownership. The second part of a winning frontline culture is finding people doing something right. We have to be an organization that's looking for going out of our way to find somebody doing something right. And this works really for anything. If you're going to look at a house or an apartment and you want to give it a good shot, well, go in and try to see how many things you can find that are right about that apartment or right about that house. Yes, you're going to see the negative ones almost immediately, but sometimes in the end, nothing's perfect. So we're trying to create an environment where we can find things that are positive. You need to do that with people in a contact center because there's so much information and so many things they do wrong. We need to have a culture where we're finding somebody to do something right. I'm going to show you a little bit later where AI really makes a huge difference when it comes to that one. We need to be an organization that's always improving, which means we're always getting better. We're pursuing excellence. It's something that never ends. Are you an organization? You have a culture where you're always improving, not that you're talking about it, but you're investing the time in coaching. You're investing the time in training. You're investing the time in trying to create an environment where the information that you give your reps is timely and easy to understand. And we're doing the things that we can do to make it an environment where they're always improving. We want to have self-discovery communication. And what that means is, hey, I did something great. I want you to know about it. If you've got 15 or 25 people working for you, it's very hard for you to keep up on how they're doing. Well, if we create an environment where they know what they're doing and they're telling you, now I've got an organization where I've got people that are helping me that are helping me understand and recognize what it is that they're doing well so that I can acknowledge that. Yes, that still means that I need to go peruse and find out what they're doing, but what about an environment where they're telling me when they've done something great, or they're telling me where they've overcome a challenge, or whatever it is I may be coaching them? I've now created an environment where I've increased engagement. They've just done something well. And the first thing I think of is, hey, I need to go tell my leader, or I need to go tell my coach or my supervisor, whoever it is. Obviously, we want to build connection between the company, connection with their peers, connection with the customer, and of course, connection with their direct supervisor, whoever that may be. And then finally, we have to have a culture that's on time. Time is everything in a contact center. My daughter's dance teacher used to say years ago that with the girls that were coming to her dance program was, if you're early on time, if you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're history. That has to be the culture. We need to be maniacal about having being on time in our organization. Well, if you're going to do these things, if we're going to create an environment where we're going to reach out and we're going to acknowledge our employees, we're going to create this kind of culture. There are three factors that are key to that. It's visibility, consistency, and personalization. Agents need to know that we know that they're doing well. We need to be consistent about it, never ending, never stopping. If your strategy for culture is a potluck dinner once, a couple times a year, and you're really good at Halloween, you don't have a culture that's being anywhere near as consistent as you need to be. This needs to be daily, consistently reaching out, consistently engaging, consistently teaching, consistently providing them with the tools that they need to be successful. And of course, it needs to be personal. I love this term that everybody's dialed in the same radio station, which is WIIFM. What's in it for me? So with that, I want to show you our lens, how we look at it, how we apply AI to be able to do many of the things that I just talked about, which is creating an environment where we can connect with our employees. So Kevin's going to go ahead and give you a quick look at this.
All right, thank you. My name's Kevin, and I'm going to walk you through just really briefly. Michael, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, great. Yep, so what I'm going to walk you through is just a quick slideshow that agents within our platform can log into, and before they start their shift, they'll get a quick performance recap. They'll see any sort of information they need. We have some one-on-one capabilities, and it's all condensed with time in mind to get them started on the right foot. So with that being said, I'm going to click Start here. When the agent views this, they'll be greeted with a screen like this. They'll click on Let's Do This. The first thing they'll see here is a performance recap from yesterday. So any sort of KPI metrics that you find important, that you want the agents to be held accountable for, will be here. An agent will see whether they're on target or off target with some encouragement. You'll see here that we're counting streaks. So the agent would be aware of 10 consecutive days of perfect attendance, 30 flawless CSAT scores, as well as we're going to push them a noteworthy customer comment. So any sort of positive comment that came in from a customer, we're going to make sure that they see. The next thing they might see is a news flash. So within our platform, we have the ability to push out news flashes for anything that you might deem time sensitive or urgent information. In this, you can follow a news flash with a quiz, or you can have simply an acknowledgement statement. So you're sure that before they started their shift, they've seen what they need to see. Another piece of our platform we have is a one-on-one feature. So within the platform, you can run your one-on-ones. One of the key features of this is before the one-on-one starts, the agent is notified that they have a one-on-one scheduled. They can see the talking points. And most importantly, before that meeting starts, the agent has the ability to add their own talking points to ensure that they're able to cover in that one-on-one anything they need to cover. So before the agent and supervisor go into that meeting, they're on the same page. The next feature within the platform is we're going to recognize them. So within the platform, we have a variety of achievements and challenges. In this example, the agents unlocked the No Challenge is Too Great for scoring 100% on QA 3 times. So the agent would see that. Another type of achievement we have in the platform are milestones. These are for long-term achievements. In this example, the agents hit their 1,000th perfect CSAT score. So they're going to view that within here as well. Next, we have quick tips. So quick tips are quick coaching tips that the agent will see. Within the platform, we try to personalize it. So if the agent is a fan of The Office, for example, they might see this GIF. If they're a football fan, they might see another GIF. So we try to personalize that experience, not only based on the interests, but areas that they're struggling with. Within the platform, we also have a shout out feature. So supervisors can recognize their agents. In this example, this agent's received a well done. It's been accompanied by some text from their supervisor. We also have peer-to-peer shout outs that the agent can take advantage of as well. And the last two things here is one, we're going to quiz them every day. So we have a bank of pop quiz questions that you can post to the agent, as well as you have the ability to add your own pop quiz questions from your knowledge base or training. So the agent would see that, answer it. And then finally, we're going to end it with a pulse check. So every day we're going to check their pulse, see how they're feeling. We have 7 best practice questions that we rotate through different variations of the question to prevent survey fatigue. And each day we're going to find out how they're thinking and feeling. And finally, we're just going to make them aware of any sort of e-documents or training that they have assigned, and they're off to start their day.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, he just went through that in about 4 minutes, and I think we showed 2 minutes in the time frame that we actually had. And the premise is that we create an environment where we can actually communicate to the frontline employee what they need to know when they need to know it, that's specifically relatable to them. And that's always the fight, and it's the turnover fight, right? How do I avoid the $11,000? Well, the challenge that we see all the time is, well, I know there's things I need to tell them, but I just don't have enough time. Or, we just can't give them the time because on our platform, we can open it up and you can look at that and look at every gaming thing that you ever won and see all of your customer feedback and all the different data that you have. And there are many organizations that will leave our application open and just let the reps go in and peruse whenever they want. And I think that's great and fabulous. But there's some organizations that are like, listen, you know what? We just don't have any time. We need to get them what we need to get them and then move on. Well, with MyStart, we've created an environment which makes it very easy. You can control how long it is. You can communicate the information that you need to communicate. There's some people that need to get some training, they can. But that way, that when the day is over, when the day starts, or maybe you do it in the middle of the day or the end of the day, or when workforce management gives them a slot, they go look at it. You know that they've seen everything that they need to see, whether that be encouragement, whether that be training, whether that be some sort of a news flash or a pulse check or some reflection on something they've done or something a peers have done or celebration, whatever it is. You know that they've gotten what they need to get, and you're controlling how much engagement it is, and you know that it's happening. Whatever we're communicating, whatever we're doing with our frontline or with our supervisors, in contact centers, we have to make a distinction between doing things for people or doing things to them. And are you an organization that does things for your agents? Or are you someone that does things to your agents? If your immediate reaction to that is, well, we do a lot of things to them, then you struggle with turnover more than likely, because you have to be an organization that's doing things for them. And that doesn't mean that you waste time. It doesn't mean that you give away money. It doesn't mean that you have a never-ending supply of gas cards. But what it means is that you've got a culture and a structure that does things for people, and you're doing things for the agent rather than to the agent. And I know that you know what the answer to that is, because you just know immediately where you fit or where your company fits, or maybe the last company that you work for, where they fit. There's no better example of this 4 and 2. On a customer side, it's IVR. And whether you're doing it for them because it really is faster, better, cheaper, or whether you're doing it to them, which is, listen, we just need to offload costs and we think we can get away with these 5 or 6. They hate our IVR, but you know what? We can't afford to have a person answer these, so the IVR is doing it. That's the easiest way to do it from a customer standpoint, to look at 4 and 2. The next best one, when you're looking at to your agents, is related to quality and quality monitoring. Are you an organization that's doing it for that or to them? And in today's world of quality monitoring, you're probably measuring 2 to 10 calls that you're having monitored for your employees. And I have some history in quality monitoring. I ran an organization that created the very first quality monitoring product. I literally sat in the FCC meeting where they come up with, your call may be monitored for quality purposes. Yes, I'm older than a dinosaur. At that time, we came out with a platform that recorded the calls. So rather than you having to sit there and record them yourself, it recorded 2 to 10 calls so that you can then listen to them, speed them up, slow them down, listen to them when you wanted to, take the recording, let the rep listen to it. So my organization built the entire quality monitoring industry, or was at the start of it. We didn't build the whole industry, but we definitely did it at the start of it. So when I look at quality monitoring today, when we do 2 to 10 calls, there is inherently in your rep a response that goes something like, well, you listen to the wrong calls. You caught me on the wrong calls. You caught me on a bad day. You only listen to 5 of the 200 that I take a week, 800 that I take a month, and you're grading me or evaluating me on these 5. It doesn't mean they do it. Doesn't mean the issues they had weren't there, but it's such a small amount of numbers. And as a result of that, it changes the confidence. It also makes it hard to focus on the good things that they did, because you end up being more focused on the things that they did wrong. And one of the ways to tell whether you're a 2 or a 4 is, are you an organization that if they score particularly poorly on some particular question or some particular area, you immediately take them off the phone? And that's okay, because you should immediately take them off the phone, and those should be in place. But if they do something really spectacular, if they get 10 perfect scores in a row, or they do something that's amazing in the feedback, or something that they say, or the customer makes some sort of a comment that's just extraordinary, do you have the same structure and procedure in place where you immediately take them off the phone so that you can acknowledge them, recognize them, and encourage them? Because that's where the distinction becomes when we're doing it 4 versus 2. What's great about AI and the massive change that AI makes in the area of quality monitoring is we can go from 2 to 10 to 100% of the calls. And when we get 100% of the calls, the entire world changed, because now we're not doing it to them. Hey, we only picked 2 to 10. We're now doing it for them, because we now have all the calls. I now know exactly what they did. I know exactly the areas that they're most challenged by, because maybe they've done it 50 times. Maybe they've done it 500 times out of the 800 calls they've taken. But whatever that is, we now go to them with credibility. We've now got capability that we know exactly what it is they're doing and how they're doing it. And also equally important, especially for turnover, is we now can use our gaming and our coaching and our encouragement and our acknowledgement and our streaks and all the other things that we do with way more data. So now we can put that data to use to allow us to be encouraging, to do different things that are going to make them more successful. And I wanted to show you what this looks like. And Scott's going to take it from here and give you a quick look as well at how this works and what it looks like. Scott, are you there?
Yep. Yes, thanks, Michael. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. And what I thought I would show you today is just a little bit about how the process works, from bringing those call interactions into our application, and then some of the ways we leverage the data in Proponency. So before I go too far into this employee profile that I'm sharing right now, I'm going to go into just sort of a back office API component that would show you how we can connect to your call recording application and bring over those calls once they occur. And so I'm just going to kind of manually do that here by picking a call recording that might come over and hit submit. And this would all be through an API, that would be triggered after the call ends, and when the call recording is ready on your side in your application, and then our application would do this API call over to take the audio file. If you're already transcribing the call and you're happy with your transcript, we could also just take the transcript. I just had this API run a transcript, a note summary that could be used for after call work, and the evaluation. And this is the transcript here between the customer and the agent. And then here is a summary. One of the clients we worked with wanted to see a summary in a certain way with notes related to the account. And then here would be the evaluation, where they wanted to have this active listening, professionalism, empathy, resolution effectiveness, customer satisfaction score, and then some of these protocol adherence components as well. And then it's making a little summary here overall about the evaluation. And again, this is fully customizable. One thing to mention with these protocol adherence or any other kind of adherence or compliance kind of questions, that the logic behind those can be very thorough. Like, for example, the verification protocol in this model I'm showing here is making sure the customer name is verified and that an account ID is verified. And then once the agent pulls up the account, verifying they're on the account. So it can get into a pretty deep level of logic that it uses to evaluate these calls. And then within Proponency, you'd be able to see these responses coming in. You could search for certain criteria, high scores, low scores, and drill down into, any of the transcripts from a particular call, or the summary, which could be the notes that we pass back to you. This is an example of how it's making notes on that transition or that transaction interaction by showing the customer information, what the key issues were, what actions were taken, follow-up required, and a conclusion. Again, this format can be in the format of however, our client would want to make that, adhere to whatever rules or policies they have related to account notes. And then the evaluation was also available as well. And then when Kevin showed the demo of MyStart, you were able to see how, each day it's giving some feedback on how the previous day's performance was. And one of those components is the auto QA. So in some cases, an agent might take 70 calls a day. As Kevin showed you, they'll see sort of the highlight on, how they did, what they could work on to improve. And then they have views that they could see each day of the week as they're moving through the week, and compare those goals to how they did last week. And the AI can push out those coaching tips and pop quizzes and micro training courses that Kevin highlighted in the MyStart as well. And then as a supervisor or a coach, I can log in and look at Rachel's profile and see all of her KPIs if I wanted to, and how she's doing. I could also isolate a source down here and see, all those questions we just saw that's on the particular form. And I can see trend lines down here for how she's doing. I could also go in and, make an on-the-spot coaching note if I wanted to, to encourage her, or to maybe mention something we're going to cover in the next one-on-one. And then all of this data too, and Kevin mentioned the collaborative one-on-one sessions that we can conduct with our employees. The quality data is also embedded in that. So if I were to go in and start working on my next one-on-one, where I've got maybe a few agenda items in here already, and I'm getting ready to send this over and invite the agents so that they can contribute to this agenda as well. But you can see all of the KPIs are also in this one-on-one, so that, even as it's in the early stages of scheduling and the collaboration that happens before the actual one-on-one, by making notes and reviewing the agenda and collaborating, all of the data in here to effectively coach is available. So these one-on-ones are really designed to, prevent anyone, whether it's the agent or the coach, from being surprised, once they get into the meeting. So that's sort of a very high level of how we're using the application. And Michael has already mentioned it's also fully integrated into, tracking streaks or tracking into games and achievements, and then driving training and coaching automation. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Michael.
All right, so I made the mistake last time about not switching back to my screen. So can you see my auto quality assurance screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So we talk about that as being an example of using AI to do something for people, and because that's really what is required in order to accomplish what we want to with turnover, in order to create the best environment that we can, to have people that want to be there and want to work with us, and want to be with us because they're growing and they're getting better. And I love this quote from John Cotter. I don't even know if John Cotter's still alive or not. He probably is. I'm not acknowledging or announcing his premature death or anything, but the central issue is never strategy, structure, culture, or systems. The core of the matter is always about changing the behavior of people. Here's some best practices that you can look at in just some other ways from a cultural standpoint, and using AI that you can create an environment that can keep people around longer. Discipline coaching. You make an investment in sitting down for 15 minutes a week or every 2 weeks or half an hour, whatever your numbers are, but having a process and a system in place that's scalable and repeatable, and people that actually know how to do it, leaders that actually know how to coach. Well, with AI, we know what to coach on, because now we know without a shadow of a doubt what it is to coach on. We also need to have leaders that are capable of doing the coaching, that people are looking forward to going to their coaching session because it's an engaging, exciting, encouraging, and challenging environment. We're huge on daily learning and testing. We think you should give a quiz every day. And especially if you're doing any sort of change management where, hey, I've just produced something, they've had to read a PDF or some sort of a memo. I want to make sure that they know what they're talking about. I want to quiz them on it right away, because we've got to put them on the phone and they've got to be able to handle and understand those things. And those first two are so critical for people that are remote, because anything that you can do that goes that extra step to make sure and acknowledge and engage with an employee ensures that they're going to have the correct answer, which is going to make them successful. We've mentioned and showed you a number of times legacy measurement. We have clients, you have employees that have had their 100,000th perfect CSAT score, or they've done 250 or 300 in a row of perfect scores. Well, when that happens, they need to be acknowledged. They need to know that they've done it, and you want to have somebody else share it with them as well. I mean, empowered leaders is something that's talked about all the time. AI can help empower your frontline coaches, supervisors, and leaders, because it gives us better information. But if you don't know how to communicate it, if you can't do it with a smile, if you can't be encouraging about what you're doing, if you don't have people that are empowered and have the time to do it, it's not going to get done. I said in a podcast earlier this week that, you know what, if you're having coaching sessions, it's okay to move them, because sometimes that happens, but you should never move them out of the week that they're in. Coaching needs to be something that doesn't change. Leaders need to be empowered and know that they're going to have the time to connect with employees. Obviously, our platform is designed to come alongside the leader, be an extra coach, and make sure that we're doing all the repetitive components, but that people-to-people connection is so important. We've talked about self-discovery and discretionary effort, and we've also talked about finding somebody doing something right. This is where we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to loyal employees that are informed, are skilled, and engaged. If we can do those four things together, whether they're supervisors or employees, the loyalty obviously reflects people sticking around, but they don't stick around unless they're successful at their job. And you can't be successful at your job unless you're informed and you're skilled, because there's no way to move HT. There's no way for you to accomplish what you need to in quality, in customer CSAT, and customer feedback, in compliance, unless you're informed and skilled at being able to do your job. You have to be able to overcome objections. You have to know the basic answers that are necessary, even with the assistance of a knowledge base, which we have, or extra training, or even agent-assisted knowledge bases, which is going to show you what the answer is. You still need to retain that data so that you become more effective and more efficient at it, and do it in the time frame and the target that we need to do it. Because as much as we would like to, we can't look one of our employees deeply in the eyes and say, listen, I want you to be so happy. I want you to be so successful. Just take one call today and make it perfect. They just can't do it. We have to put restrictions and challenges and expectations on achieving it in a certain amount of time, which allows us to be able to respond to calls coming in from outside of our organization. We don't know when they're coming. We don't know how many they are, but we're doing the best we can to forecast so that we can meet that need and meet the goals that are there. I wanted to share one last thing with you, and that is, I want to talk to you about a concept called the superpower of time, which I think is so important to accomplishing the turnover challenges and obtaining the turnover goals that we seek as an organization. We call this the superpower of time, and there's three components to this. The first thing you have to be really great at is being able to make time. And the way that we make time is we keep people around, because if we're able to reduce our turnover, if we're able to keep people around longer and not have to hire new people to replace them and go through that gradual reduction of talk time and HT, where we can get, where they start and where they end up, that creates the averages that allow us to accomplish what we need to get accomplished. And hopefully those are rows like AHTs. We literally make time when we keep people around. Depending on how big your organization is, just keeping somebody 30 more days, because either they're in a game with a team member, or they're coming up on a milestone, or they're in the middle of a streak, or they're playing a competitive game based on customer feedback and words against one of their peers, and they've lost 2 times in a row and they're winning. Just sticking around or not looking at Indeed for a job, or anything that we can do that can keep them around, we're literally making time. And that is really the answer to turnover. But we also are in the business, the one that we know the most about, and maybe the reason you dialed into this webinar, is we're also trying to save time. And we save time by having skilled and informed employees. We save time because anything that we can do that makes them more effective, that makes them more successful at their job, we save time because they're more successful at what it is they're doing. When we're able to give them the information that they need and give them the skills that allow them to be more successful at their job, we're going to save time. It's why we want the experienced person to stick around, and we don't want to have to start over again with brand new people. And then finally, we want to maximize time. And we maximize time through engagement. And the main way that we maximize time is that all of that time that you invest with your coaches, coaching people, or having a conversation with them, or anybody that's a leader that is people working for them, that interaction that they have with their employees, whether that's just a simple friendly conversation or a specific conversation, or even a PIP, when those conversations are done by people that have the information that they need, have the skills to be able to coach, to be able to lead, to be able to challenge, to be able to discipline, that's maximizing time. And if you simply take the amount of time that your reps spend being coached, the amount of time that their coaches or their leaders that they do it, if you just calculate that time, you're trying to maximize that investment in the time that you're spending. And when we do that, when we make time, save time, and maximize time, what we do is we create an environment that gives us a superpower to be as successful as we can be. I often wonder whether we create an environment where it's just impossible to succeed, because we never know from day to day whether the weather is going to change us, our systems are going to go down, people aren't going to show up, whatever it is, that it makes it almost impossible to be wildly successful all the time. We want to put ourselves in an environment where we're successful because we're doing the professional things that we need to do to have a world-class organization. Now, it's 1:44 by my clock. I know that one of the critical components of a contact center is time. So I want to give you back time if I can, which means that I can give you back the time you need, but I also want to answer any questions that you have. If you've got a question, put it out on chat. If you don't have any questions and you're saying, listen, this dude just gave me 15 minutes back, I'm going to take him and I'm going to run and go do something else with my time, go coach somebody or encourage somebody. Grateful to have you on our webinar. We would obviously love to talk to you about what we do and how we can help you as an organization. Please reach out and let us know. I'm also open and happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if you don't have any questions, then I'm going to bid you adieu, and you're going to go off and do your thing, and I'm going to go off and do mine. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat. Otherwise, we are going to continue to run these webinars. If there's something we can do that would make it more successful, or there's a subject you want to talk about, please do. I also have a podcast called The Contact Center Coach. There are 136 podcasts out there. They're all 15 to 22 minutes in length on every subject you can think of. Check them out. If you like them, listen to, keep listening, tell somebody else. If you didn't like